South Africa is hours away from hosting the G20 Summit, and suddenly, a mysterious plane carrying 153 undocumented Palestinian refugees lands in Johannesburg. Held on the runway for 12 hours, no Israeli exit stamps, no official clearance, and no visa. But the real shock? Julius Malema, the loudest voice on Palestine, is completely silent. Why? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will change everything. Before we continue, hit like so this story reaches more Africans, subscribe to stay ahead of global manipulation, and turn on notifications, because the truth they hide is the truth we expose.
Yesterday we had a plane of 160, we're carrying 160 Palestinians landing at OR Tambo. And these are people from Gaza who somehow mysteriously were put on a plane that passed by Nairobi and came here. And I got to hear about it from my Minister of Home Affairs, wanting to know what do we do now. And I said, we cannot turn them back. Even though they do not have the necessary documents and papers, these are people from a strife-torn, a war-torn country. And out of compassion, out of empathy, we must receive them and be able to deal with the situation that they are facing. And it does seem like they were being, flushed out. We will get the details later, but from a humanitarian point of view, we could not return them from whence they have come, and we had to accept them, and they are now here, and we are going to be processing everything about them and then deciding precisely what needs to be done.
South Africa is gone. It's gone. It's probably been gone for a couple of years. I don't know if we ever had it, to be honest. The story of the 153 Palestinians that landed illegally at OR Tambo 2 days ago, you couple that with the Arabs that came and bought land in the Eastern Cape and built an airstrip, invested in a game reserve. Why randomly in the Eastern Cape? The stories of the Israelis who are buying up property in the Western Cape, Cape Town, and are bumping up property prices and essentially a form of gentrification, making it very difficult and unaffordable for ordinary South Africans to live there. The constant stories we hear about Mozambicans, Zimbabweans, Sotho people from Lesotho, Swati people from Eswatini, Tswana people from Botswana, Malawians, Tanzanians coming into South Africa. Those are our neighbors, some of them. Somalians, Ethiopians running business here to a point where they've built some type of cartels and mafias that keep ordinary South Africans from competing in business. The Western Cape and the DA, or the DA in the Western Cape, welcomed Ukrainians to say, you guys can come here as refugees, we'll sort you out. We've had so many drug lords from Eastern Europe that have been here. Some have been killed, some have been arrested, etc. There is no sovereignty in South Africa. We are told about a sovereignty, but there's no sovereignty. There are no borders. It's a free-for-all. Cyril Ramaphosa, the ANC, and not just Cyril, but presidents before him would go and bow to the Queen of England, the King of England now. Even the Zulu kings would do the same. There's no sovereignty in South Africa, and I hope and I wish South Africans could wake up and see that this country is run by managers who never stopped working for Western colonizers. We need to start having a conversation around building closed communities. We need to have a conversation around building something like an Orania, something like a Stain City with our own security, with our own people inside. Documented, undocumented, doesn't matter. People that you're saying, these are my people. Because if we don't, a civil war is going to erupt very soon. And I can tell you now, the elite are going to leave, or they're going to use the soldiers and the police to defend themselves. And ordinary South Africans are going to be the ones left suffering, as it's always happened in history. But South Africa's gone. It's gone.
In a stunning slap at South Africa, Donald Trump has announced that the U.S. will boycott the G20 Summit in Johannesburg, claiming violent persecution, land grabs, and even genocide against white Afrikaners. He went further. South Africa shouldn't even be in the Gs anymore, he said, refusing to send any U.S. officials as long as these alleged human rights abuses continue. But Pretoria is not backing down. President Cyril Ramaphosa responded with steel. It's their loss, he said, dismissing boycott politics as ineffective. He made it clear the G20 will go on with or without the U.S., and in the end, their absence is their loss. Ramaphosa also struck back at Trump's claims, calling them baseless and politically motivated, all while reaffirming that South Africa will continue defending its sovereignty. ANC leaders described Trump's move as nothing short of imperialist interference. This isn't just diplomatic tension. This is a battle for respect on the global stage. And it's happening in Africa.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has hit back at U.S. President Donald Trump over the United States' decision to boycott the upcoming G20 summit in Johannesburg. President Ramaphosa told reporters in the coastal city of Cape Town on Wednesday, 12th November, that the U.S. stands to lose by not attending the annual gathering of the world's largest economic bloc.
The United States, by not being at the G20, one must never think that we are not going to go on with the G20. The G20 will go. All other heads of states will be. In the end, we will take fundamental decisions.
The comments by the South African president come barely a week after the U.S. president declared that the U.S. would not be represented at the G20 summit scheduled to take place from 22nd to 23rd November in Johannesburg, and that South Africa should be expelled from the bloc.
I'm not going to. We have a G20 meeting in South Africa. South Africa shouldn't even be in the Gs anymore. It shouldn't be there.
The summit in Johannesburg will be the first in Africa since the formation of the G20 in 1999. South Africa, which currently chairs the G20, says it will use its presidency to highlight priorities of the Global South, from climate resilience to debt reform. South Africa is expected to hand over the G20 presidency to the U.S. next year. But with the tensions brewing, commentators say the transition might not be smooth and there might be clashes over policies within the G20. The G20 comprises 19 sovereign states, the European Union and the African Union. It accounts for around 85% of global economic output and 75% of international trade. Now, since Donald Trump's return to the U.S. presidency in January 2025, tensions have grown between Washington and Pretoria on a number of issues, including South Africa's case at the International Court of Justice, accusing Washington's key ally, Israel, of committing genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. South Africa's land reforms law to address apartheid era, injustice against Black South Africans, and its membership of key organizations like BRICS are also a source of tensions.
Disclaimer. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. Afriscope TV does not promote hate, violence, or misinformation. All content is based on publicly available data and expert commentary. Viewers are encouraged to think critically and verify independently.